Okay, now to continue on. This book follows the examples of the masters by identifying this underlying power, this substantial essence, which emanates from the bonding of nothing and possibility, with the names Summum and Creation's Copulation. In this chapter, it will be called Summum, which will be considered the most comprehensive term for this discussion. It is taught by the great thinkers of all times, as well as by the Summa individuals, that the esoteric nature of Summum is unknowable by humankind. This must be so, for otherwise Summum itself would not understand its own nature if it were humankind. For humankind is not Summum, and to completely understand a thing, one must be that thing, not just an observer of the thing. This is not to say, however, that the esoteric nature of Summum cannot ever be known. There are states of being in which it is known, and humankind, in time, will progress to these states, but will have long since passed the point of humanity. We won't be human anymore, I guess. Summum in itself is and must ever be unknowable to humankind. Only the exoteric nature of Summum can be known. As explained in Chapter 2, Summum is nothing and possibility come in and out of bond infinite times in a finite moment. It takes the joining of two to make one, Summum. This is the copulation of creation. Only the whole of Summum can understand itself totally. However, the human being can understand Summum based upon its experience as a unit of Summum. There are those who ascribe to Summum the personality, qualities, properties, characteristics, and attributes of themselves. These ascriptions are not worthy of grown men and women and represent ideas that are simply illusions about the substantial essence of Summum. However, it is understandable because humans can only make pronouncements about creation from their limited point of view. These ideas are simply illusions about the substantial essence of Summum. While the totality of Summum is unknowable to humankind, there are certain facts connected with its existence, which the human mind finds itself compelled to accept. An examination of these facts forms a proper subject of inquiry, particularly as they agree with the explanation given by the Summa individuals. The human reason informs you as follows regarding Summum. Summum must be all that really is. Nothing exists outside of Summum, and nothing exists inside of Summum, for Summum is and is not the law of paradox. Summum is infinite and finite, for there is nothing to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict Summum. It is automatically created and has always continuously existed and not existed, for there is nothing else to have ever created it. Its expressed states are infinite in space. It is everywhere, for there is no place outside of Summum. It cannot be otherwise than continuous in space, for it creates all space. It is without break, cessation, separation, or interruption, for there is nothing to break, separate, or interrupt its continuity, and nothing with which to fill in the gaps. It must be infinite in power and absolute, for there is nothing to limit, restrict, confine, disturb, or condition it. It is subject to no other power, for there is no other power, although summum is also nothing, as it alternates from summum possibility to nothing, the principle of rhythm. Summum is immutable and not subject to change in its essence nature, for there is nothing to work changes upon it, nothing into which it could change or from which it could have changed. It cannot be added to or subtracted from, increased or diminished, or become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. It must have always been and must always remain just what it is now, summum. There has never been, is not now, and never will be anything else into which it can change. Summum, being infinite and finite, absolute, eternal, and unchangeable, it must follow that anything changeable, fleeting, and conditioned cannot be summum. As there is nothing outside or inside of summum, then any and all such finite things must be as nothing in reality. Now do not become confused, for there is a reconciliation of this apparently contradictory philosophy. Be patient. You will reach it in time. You see around you that which you call matter, which forms the physical foundation for all forms. Is summum merely matter? No. Matter cannot display life or mind, for nothing rises higher than its own source. Nothing is ever reflected in an effect that is not in the cause. Nothing is evolved as a consequent matter. Nothing is evolved as a consequence that is not involved as an antecedent. Modern science informs you that there is really no such thing as matter. That which is called matter is merely energy equaling mass multiplied by the square of the velocity of light. In other words, energy or force at a proper time as a low rate of vibration results in matter. All science has accepted the idea that matter is a state of energy, and energy is the event between a cause and effect. Is summum mere energy or force? Again, no, for life can never evolve from blind energy or force. Nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing displays in the effect unless it is in the cause. So summum cannot be mere energy or force, for if it were, there would be no life, intelligence, or mind in existence. And common sense would tell you better than that. You are alive and using mind to consider this very question. And so are those who claim that energy or force is everything. What is there then behind or higher than matter or energy that you know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind and intelligence, life and mind in all their varying degrees of unfoldment. Just as life and mind are that much higher than the mechanical forces which govern matter, this living mind is so far above and beyond anything which mortals can know, infinite living mind, as compared to finite life and mind. It is the concept of infinite living mind which the Summa individuals refer to when they use the word spirit. Summum is infinite living mind. The Summa individuals call it spirit. The mental universe. The universe is mental, emanating from the mind of Summum. Summum. Summum is spirit. What is spirit? This question needs to be examined at this point. Spirit is the effect of the event in which the two grand opposites are poised in opposition or subjective observation to one another. This event is such that the cause, the bonding of nothing and possibility, and the resulting effect, spirit, occur simultaneously. Summum. Spirit is the life force energy produced as a result of creation's observation of itself, the copulation. The process of observation or attention, direct or indirect, establishes the foundation of the structure of creation. The collective consciousness of the units of creation establishes the presence of the universe. It is similar to the human body, in which billions of individual cells, units, make it up to be what it is. As the cells within the body change, so does the condition of the body change. The mental condition of all material existence alters with the mental condition, consciousness of all the units of the existent material universe. Spirit is a name that humankind gives to the concept of infinite living mind, the essence of creation, the bond between the nothing and possibility, the joining together and splitting apart of the mental string proportions of the subjective nothing and possibility. It can be called the real essence. It means living mind. It is as much superior to life and mind as you know them, as the latter are superior to mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends your understanding, and you use the term merely that you may think or speak of Summum. For the purpose of thought and understanding at this point, you are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite living mind, at the same time acknowledging that you are examining it from the consciousness of a human being. It is best to admit this limitation, for when you acknowledge your position, you are free to travel the road of discovery. Now, proceed to a consideration of the nature of the universe as a whole and its parts. What is the universe? You have seen that there can be nothing outside of Summum. Then, is the universe Summum? No, it is not. The universe seems to be made up of many units and is constantly changing. In this sense, it does not measure up or conform to ideas as previously stated. For if the universe is not Summum, it must be nothing. Such is the logical conclusion of the mind at first thought based upon the argument presented to this point. This will not satisfy the question, for you are aware of the existence of the universe. Then, if the universe is not Summum, must it be nothing? If the universe exists at all, or seems to exist, it must proceed in some way from Summum. It must be an emulation from Summum, for something cannot come from nothing alone. From what could Summum have created it? Some philosophers have answered this question by saying that Summum created the universe from itself, that is, from the being and essence of Summum. This will not do, for Summum cannot be subtracted from, or divided, altered, or modified. Then again, if this be so, would not each particle in the universe be aware of its being Summum? Summum could not lose its knowledge of itself, or actually become an atom, or blind force, or lowly living thing. Some humans, realizing that Summum is everything, and recognizing that they exist, have jumped to the conclusion that they and Summum are identical. They have filled the air with shouts of "I am God," to the laughter of the public and to the sorrow of the sages. The claim of the cell that I am the human would be modest in comparison. What is the universe if it is not summum, not created by summum, having separated itself into fragments? What else could it be? Of what else can it be made? This is a great question. Examine it carefully. You find here that the principle of correspondence, in chapter 3, will come to your assistance. The old axiom, as above, so below, may be employed at this point. Venture to get a glimpse of the workings of higher fields by examining those on your own. The principle of correspondence must apply to this as well as to other obstacles. On their own field of being, how do humans create?
Harder than one.
Shut the door. Excuse me. Noises came into the house. On their own field of being, how do humans create? Firstly, they may create by making something from external materials. This will not suffice, for there are no materials outside of Summum with which it may create. Secondly, humans procreate or reproduce their kind by sexual reproduction or cloning, which are self-multiplications accomplished by transferring a portion of their substance to their offspring. This will not do because Summum cannot transfer or subtract a portion of itself, nor can it reproduce or multiply itself. In the first place, there would be a taking away, and in the second case, a multiplication or addition to Summum, both sets of circumstances being an impossibility. However, there is a third way in which humans create. They create mentally. In so doing, they use no outside materials, nor do they reproduce themselves. Yet their spirit pervades their mental creation. Allowing for the principle of correspondence, you are justified in considering that Summum creates the universe mentally in a manner akin to the process whereby humans create mental images. This is the only logical answer, which is also the one given by the Summa individuals. Such are the teachings of Summum. Summum can create in no other way except mentally, without either using material, for there is none to use outside of itself, or else reproducing itself, which is also impossible. There is no escape from this conclusion of the reason, which agrees with the highest teachings of the Summa individuals. Just as you may create a universe of your own in your mentality, so does Summum create universes in its own mentality. Although your creation is the mental creation of a finite mind, that of Summum is the creation of an infinite mind. The two are similar in kind, but infinitely different in degree. You shall examine more closely the process of creation and manifestation as you proceed. At this point, fix in your mind, the universe and all it contains is a mental creation of Summum. Truly, everything is mind. A point needs to be made regarding the concept of mind. Humankind tends to correlate the ideal of mind with thinking. This occurs because most humankind are constantly engaged in thoughts concerning their physical body life. Because their attention is wrapped up and fixated in thought, they cannot observe anything more to their minds other than their own thinking, and they have great difficulty considering concepts of mind outside of having thoughts and the thinking process. There is far more to the human mind than humans realize. The concept of mind within the Summum philosophy has a broader meaning that goes beyond the ideal of thinking. While it is accurate to say the human mind is similar in nature to the mind of creation via the principle of correspondence, the mind of creation is infinitely different in degree. The mind of creation is not a thinking mind, but has all thought contained within it in silence. Thought is an event, and all events are produced by the copulating bond between the grand opposites, nothing and possibility. Infinite events within the finite moment. This describes the mind of creation, Summum. When Summum expresses into manifest form, the infinite events, time and action, appear. Within the action is where thinking occurs among the individualized units that are created. The expression is within Summum, but the expression is not Summum. The expression is part of the mind's essence projected out into its mental womb. Consider this paradox. Surrounded by nothing, all possibility, Summum, and the mind of creation rest in the nothingness with everything in it. Thought and action, while held inside, are outside the mind of creation. Summum creates in its infinite mind infinite universes, which exist for eons of space-time, and yet to Summum, the creation, development, decline, and death of 1 billion universes is as the time of the twinkling of an eye. Summum. The finite moment in which nothing and possibility come in and out of bond in infinite number of times has always existed. It always was, is now, and always will be. The moment holds the mind of creation. The moment is the mind of creation. Within the mind, creation projects a portion of its essence into its mental womb and expresses or manifests the essence into space-time, form, and action. Infinite universes are created, and each one goes through its sequence of birth, growth, deterioration, and death. Then the mind withdraws the projection back into itself. The process repeats, for it is a never-ending cycle, just as the copulation between nothing and possibility is never-ending. The principle of gender, Chapter 3, is manifested in all fields of life, material, mental, and spiritual. As you have seen before, gender does not just mean sex. Sex is a material expression of gender. Gender means relating to generation or creation. In any field, the principle of gender must be manifested. This is true even in the creation of universes. For example, there are male and female gods, or creators, that act in some of the infinite dimensional fields created by Summum. The Summum philosophy is that Summum in itself is above gender, as it is the law from which the laws proceed, and it is not subject to them. Although the essence of the law is found within Summum, the copulation of nothing and possibility can be looked upon as the essence of gender. When Summum causes manifestation, then it acts according to law and principle, for it moves on a lower level and field of being. Consequently, it exhibits the principle of gender in its essence, in its masculine and feminine aspects, primarily at the mental level and secondarily on the physical level. In your mundane concepts, you have spoken of the fatherhood of God and the motherhood of nature, of God the divine Father and nature the universal mother, and thus have instinctively acknowledged the principle of gender in the universe. Summum is not real duality, only in its subjective essence. The two aspects come from nothing and possibility in their bonding copulation. For Summum is the event of this bond. The masculine principle displayed by Summum stands, in a way, apart from the actual mental creation of the universe. It projects its will toward the feminine principle, the womb, which may be called nature, whereupon the latter begins the actual work of the creation of the universe. From the Big Bang come the simple states of vibratory energies, extending to humans and on still higher, all according to well-established and firmly enforced laws of nature. If you prefer the old figure of thought, you may think of the masculine principle as God the Father, and of the feminine principle as Mother Nature, from whose womb all created things have been born. This is more than a mere poetic figure of speech. It is an ideal of the actual process of the generation of the universe. Always remember that Summum is but one. Only in its subjective essence is it dual. And in its infinite mind, the universe is generated and exists. Now this is going to go off at any second. I'm not going to let it end in the middle of a sentence, so I'm going to end right here and pick up on this in the next one. And this is the Dove Lady. I hope you are enjoying this and understanding it. I think it will lead to a greater understanding as we get on through this. And thank you to anyone who comments. I love comments and other people's thoughts about this that I'm reading. So feel free to comment because I love that. So this is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.